Hello everyone, today we will continue to talk about the catastrophe that changed the entire 20th century, the First World War. Last time it was mentioned that in 1915 the German army achieved a complete victory on the Eastern Front, and the Russian army was particularly badly beaten. On the Western Front it fell into a dead end of trench warfare. In order to break this situation, British Navy Secretary Winston Churchill came up with a particularly bold idea: to attack the Gallipoli Peninsula, control the Dardanelles strait, and open up a sea passage with Russia. Churchill thought that as long as the British Navy could cross the Dardanelles strait and capture Constantinople, it would force Turkey to withdraw from the war and attack Austria-Hungary and Germany from the south. It has to be said that this plan is very imaginative, but the risks are also particularly high. Well, then after November 19th, 1915, the Battle of Gallipoli officially began. Britain and France formed a joint fleet under the command of British Admiral Carden and launched an attack on Turkey's fort in the Dardanelles Strait. At first it went quite smoothly. The British and French fleets destroyed Turkey's outer fort by taking 2 out of 3. But when the fleet sailed into the channel, it ran into the mines laid by the Turks. On March 18th, the British and French fleets launched another attack, resulting in 3 battleships being sunk by mines, and 3 others suffering serious injuries. General Carden had no choice but to order a retreat. After the naval attack failed, Churchill still didn't give up. He decided to send an army to land on the Gallipoli Peninsula and remove Turkey's artillery from the land. Britain has assembled an expeditionary force commanded by General Ian Hamilton. This team consists of 75,000 soldiers from UK, Australia, New Zealand, France and India. The commander of Turkey's army is Mustafa Kemal, who later became the father of Turkey. Kemal was particularly talented. He had anticipated that the Allied powers would land in Gallipoli, so he made sufficient preparations in advance. On April 25, 1915, Allied forces landed simultaneously in 5 locations on the Gallipoli Peninsula. Soldiers from Australia and New Zealand are in big trouble in the ANZAC Bay. Where they landed is 2 kilometers north of their original location, and it is full of steep cliffs. Turkey's army occupied the commanding heights and used machine guns and rifles to fire wildly at the soldiers who landed. The soldiers of the ANZAC fought exceptionally bravely. They braved the hail of bullets and climbed up the cliff, barely building a small beachhead. But I can't push our forward anymore. At Cape Paley, the landing of the British army was even more disastrous. The Turks pulled a lot of barbed wire on the beach and set up machine gun positions. As soon as the British soldiers landed on the landing craft, they collapsed in patches. The seawater has been stained red with blood. On the first day of the battle, the British army lost 2,000 soldiers. Either think the entire landing operation turned into a disaster. Although the Allied troops landed, they were all suppressed by the Turks on the narrow beachhead and could not move. Soon, both sides began digging trenches, and the trench hollow of the Western Front was repeated in Gallipoli. In the following months, both sides engaged in a series of very bloody battles. Allied forces launched round after round of attacks, but they were all repulsed by Turkey's army. Every attack requires huge casualties. In August, the Allied forces launched their final large-scale attack. They landed at Suvla Bay, trying to outflank Turkey's army from the side. However, because the commander was too incompetent, the landing force did not advance in time, giving Turkey's army a chance to breathe. Kemal immediately mobilized his troops and blocked the Allied attack. And in December 1915, the Allied powers finally decided to withdraw. This retreat became the only successful operation in the entire battle. The Allied army slipped away at night, but the Turks didn't notice it. The entire retreat process did not result in any loss of personnel. The Battle of the Gallipoli ended in a disastrous defeat for the Allied powers. The Allied forces suffered a total loss of 25,000 people, with Australia losing 8,700 and New Zealand losing 2,700. Turkey's army also lost 25,000 people. This battle brought Churchill's political career to its lowest point. He was forced to resign from his position as Minister of the Navy and became a battalion commander on the front lines in France. However, the Battle of Gallipoli also created a hero, Mustafa Kemal. His outstanding military talent in the battle has made him an idol in the hearts of the people of Turkey. After the war, he led the people of Turkey to fight the War of Independence and establish the Republic of Turkey. The Battle of Gallipoli was one of the most controversial battles of World War I. Many people believe that this is a meaningless massacre caused by Churchill's personal ambition, but some people also believe that the plan itself is actually good, but the execution is too poor. Anyway, the Battle of Gallipoli became an important turning point in World War I. It made the Allied powers fully understand that this war would not end easily and they must be prepared for a protracted war. In the next episode, let's return to the Western Front and step into the Battle of Verdun, known as the Meat Grinder, to see what the most brutal battle in human history was like. Stay tuned.